Hello guys, welcome to this video. So I thought I would just cram two videos into one day here actually, because I just feel like speaking a lot, I guess. So it was quite hard to find the image of the background in this, so hopefully you like it, this video. It's themed very well with the topic of this video, which is I'm describing the character of the Taurus sign in astrology, and their animal is represented by the bull. Well, the bull is their animal representative in the zodiac, so nice cows and bull in field. So anyways, yeah, so Taurus is the fixed mode. So as I described in the last video, the fixed mode is the one who takes the energy that has been first released, initiated, coordinated and thrown out into the world by the cardinal sign, and then they take that energy as a fixed sign for the element, and then they ground the energy more, they stabilize the energy to keep it from just dissipating into nothing, and they kind of root it. They make it persevering, they make it stronger, but they do make it less adaptable and movable. But they are the ones that are the most reliable, they're the ones that add the stability to the element they're paired with correspondingly. So yeah, so Taurus is fixed for the earth element in astrology. So Taurus is the one who will persevere and stabilize this energy of earth. Now, first thing to know about earth as a soul element is that earth is obviously the only element that does not move. Now, Virgo being the mutable mode for Earth, they kind of do move ever so slightly because, they are adaptable and open because they are the mutable mode. But still, Earth, if you think about it, unless there's like an earthquake or something, Earth is static, it doesn't move. Whereas obviously the other three elements, fire, air, and water, they all kind of move somewhat, at least part of the time. Earth doesn't unless there's like an earthquake, as I say. It's very static and it just is kind of there. It just is existing and it's immovable. And that immovable sort of stereotype, well, it's not even a stereotype, that immovable sort of ideology is very much representative of the earth element in astrology, but especially with the Taurus actually, because they are the fixed earth sign. So they are the one who is the most static, they are the least movable, and that translates into what I think most people would agree with is that one of the main character traits of Taurus is that they are very stubborn and headstrong, which is not always a bad thing. It means they're very sure of themselves and confident in their choices once they have made a decision and come to a conclusion about a certain topic. They do not then question their decision of that said topic. They will run with it and they will not, they'll be very steadfast in their knowledge that the decision they took was the right decision and that they're not going to go back on it, not going to listen for anyone, they're not going to change for anyone else's opinion, they're going to keep exactly what they first wanted to do in their mind and run with it. So they are very unadaptable. All the fixed signs to an extent will have this stubbornness because that is kind of what the fixed mode is essentially. But it's like stability, confidence in their own decision making abilities and not wanting to change it or adapt it for anyone else. But Taurus is kind of the most stubborn of all the zodiac signs, in my opinion, because they are also Earth. So not only are they the fixed mode, but they are also the fixed mode for the soul element, which is already the least movable and adaptable on its own, which is obviously the element of Earth. So fixed Earth, that combination altogether, it adds up to the result being that Taurus is very stubborn and very unmovable, but that is good because it means they're very steadfast in their opinion, they are very, very decisive, they know exactly what's best for them, and well, at least they think they do, and then they're not going to go back on, waver or go back on a decision once they've committed to something. That also makes them one of the most loyal zodiac signs because they are very steadfast. When it comes to making friends with a Taurus, I will say they are quite selective. So it's quite hard to initially get close enough to them that they will let you into their close friend circle. They are very selective about their friends. They won't just let anyone into their life as a friend. It's quite hard. You need to earn their trust and respect, and it does take quite a while because Taurus also likes to move at quite a slow pace in life. Very opposite actually to the Aries, in that the Aries obviously comes one before the Taurus. Aries likes everything fast and very quick. They're speed junkies. Taurus wants everything slow, serene, calm, and they like this sort of stability. They really need stability in every aspect of their life, and they also give it out to other people too. What Tauruses teach other people, which is the value of patience, and that they also do acquire themselves from other people in order to be the most happy and secure in themselves. So they are very loyal. Once you have managed to get into their close friend circle or even romantically involved with a Taurus, it is hard. It takes a long time, but if you've managed to do it, it means that they truly do care a lot about you. And once you get to that point of trust with them, they are very loyal and they will not really ever abandon you unless some kind of unavoidable situation intervenes and they're just really truly not able to. Unless that happens, they will always turn up every time they say they're going to meet you. They're going to be there. They're going to do it. Although, conversely, on the other side of that is that Taurus is one of the signs that are not lazy, but they do have less energy in a physical sense than a lot of the other signs. And again, this is very opposite to the sign that comes one before them in the zodiac cycle, which obviously is Aries, and they are full. Aries has an overabundance of energy. Conversely, Taurus actually has like a somewhat of a lack of energy in a physical sense. They're very tough. They've got a lot of stamina and endurance, but there's a difference between being strong and endurance and, having high endurance and being energetic. Taurus is strong, tough, they have a lot of physical strength and endurance, but they don't really have much actual energy in a physical sense necessarily. And this could partially be the Earth, as I say, it's a static kind of soul element, it doesn't move very much, but another thing is that Mars is actually directly detrimented, in other words, weakened in the sign of Taurus. Because Venus is dignified, meaning strengthened, because Taurus is one of, Venus's home signs, because it rules Taurus as well as Libra. So Venus is very comfortable there, but in astrology, wherever Venus is comfortable in a sign it rules, Mars is opposite. So wherever a sign is dignifying Venus, which makes it comfortable because it rules that particular sign and it's in its home sign, that will have the opposite effect of negativity toward Mars. So because Taurus is one of the home signs of Venus and dignifies it, at the same time then it has to weaken, in other words, detriment Mars on the other side of that. So Mars is in a weakened position in Taurus. It's not dead completely. That's what it's like in Cancer, but it is still somewhat weakened in Taurus as a direct planetary interaction. So that can mostly be, the explanation for their lack of physical energy that is somewhat apparent. So because of that, they kind of sometimes be a bit like oversleepers, especially if it's like the weekend, they don't need to work, because they're very hardworking and determined, very passionate about security, even financial security. They definitely want a secure future for themselves, so they will work hard to get that. So lazy is quite a hard word to describe them. I don't really anymore like to describe them as lazy as such, but they are somewhat lacking sometimes in physical energy. So if, say, it's the weekend, they don't need to work, then they can get away with it for that reason. They do tend to sleep in, they do oversleep quite a lot. And even when they do wake up from that oversleep, they're still like feeling pretty tired sometimes. So they could sometimes agree to meet you and then accidentally oversleep and then they're late, or they just don't meet you at all because they've slept in, or something cropped up at work that they had to do, like, out of the blue, and they couldn't meet you. They hate chains, though, definitely. So if something was to crop up out of the blue of work, that means that they suddenly can't meet you. They're going to be stressed by that. They're not going to take that very well because they hate chains of all sorts. So that will stress them out, but it will also perhaps mean that sometimes they can't meet you even if they promise to. And that comes up quite a lot for Taurus because they are very work orientated. So that could be something that happens with them. But normally it's that they oversleep and accidentally can't meet you, or even if they do, they're late to meet you in the first place. And you might have left by that time thinking they're not going to come. So that's one thing, but they are overall very reliable. As long as everything works out and that they're awake so that they can actually meet you, as long as no unavoidable disaster happens, they will manage to be there and meet you. And it will normally be on time too. If they have like set a time, as long as they're not oversleeping, they will normally be there on time. Of course, traffic jams and that can delay them, but they don't hate people who are late as much as Virgo does, but they do still, place a high value on respect, like all the earth element signs do. and also timekeeping, because they're quite professional in all aspects of life, because they're also like that with work, because they're quite professional, and they do kind of, to a slightly lesser extent, but still noticeable, they do carry that over into their personal lives as well, rather than just their more professional work lives. So again, they do still kind of like people to be on time, to be reliable, and to do what they promise they're going to do. And yeah, they might not promise things to you very often because they hate breaking their promises because of their high levels of loyalty. So they will not promise unless they are absolutely 100% sure that they can meet that promise and not have to break it. Because they hate breaking promises, like Leo as well, in that sense, because of their high loyalty levels. They hate to break their promises to anyone, so they won't make promises very often because they know that once they've made it, they have to stick to it. And if they don't, they're going to feel really guilty about it afterward. So yeah, good luck getting them to make promises to you in the first place. It can happen, but it's hard because they will hate if they can't keep that promise. They need to be secure in their belief that they can keep the promise they've made to you before they propose to you that they have promised you to do something. Otherwise, they won't commit as strongly for fear of like not being able to, and then obviously leaving you deserted or whatever in whatever situation it is. Yeah, so Taurus, they're very hardworking. They're born in the second house. Well, they're the sign representative of the second house in astrology and what that indicates in the world. So that is about money, it's about personal possessions, self-worth, all of these sort of things come under the second house sort of themes in astrology. And yeah, Taurus is kind of the energy which is like similar to the second house energy. So that's also why they are the second sign. So that's kind of the themes that they have in their life as a Taurus sign as well, mainly with their sun. Now, the difference is that a Taurus sun is going to just embody all of these characteristic Taurus traits because that's what your sun will do. Moon in Taurus is going to be a lot less dominant than the sun in Taurus. It's like um, opposite to Aries, actually, where Aries is not a sign that the moon is comfortable in, but it is a sign where the sun's comfortable in because the sun is exalted, actually, in Aries. Opposite with Taurus is that the sun is actually not overly comfortable in Taurus because Taurus actually is traditionally regarded as a sign of feminine energy, and the sun is traditionally considered a planet that is masculine energy type. So, the moon, being a feminine energy type, is more comfortable in Taurus than the sun is. So, the moon is also exalted in the sign of Taurus. So, the moon is more comfortable in Taurus than the sun is, opposite to what happens with Aries. So, in Taurus Sun, it's a bit more dominant. They're less considerate of other people's feelings sometimes, but the Taurus Moon, it's going to be more motherly, more soft, and more sort of feminine. It's kind of like the bull versus the cow, if you like. Like the bull's going to be, the sharp horns. They're the male cow. They're going to charge at you. That's like if your Sun is in Taurus. If your Moon's in Taurus, they're going to be more like the female cow. They're going to not have horns. They're not going to be charging at you. They're not going to be as aggressive. They're more motherly, more sort of considerate of other people's feelings. So it can be because the moon is more comfortable in Taurus than the sun is in Taurus. Um, Mars in Taurus in your personal birth chart is not a great placement, I must admit, because Mars is, as I say, detrimented, so it's in a weakened position in Taurus. So you might be a very stubborn person, but you also might be a bit slow to anger, which is good. You will be very patient with even anger. You're not going to argue too much because you don't want to waste your energy on things that aren't worth it, like arguments that aren't worth it. But you could also be a little passive with that placement. Venus and Taurus is a perfect placement though, because Taurus is one of Venus's home signs. It's in dignity there, so it's happy with that placement. So that will give you a lot of good physical appearance as well. Like you're probably very physically attractive. Even if you're not physically attractive, you're just going to have this aura that looks attractive and is going to draw people to you if you have Venus in Taurus, because it is a very strong position and Venus is about attraction and beauty. So yeah, that's a fortunate placement to have. Yeah, Mercury in Taurus, it could make you a very slow speaker, slow with your thought processes too, slow with your cognition. Taurus is like that in general because they are this slow pace and take things one step at a time sort of idea to their sign anyway. So yeah, you could be slow speeds, like literally slow with Mercury in Taurus, or you could just be a little bit sort of deliberate and measured, like you weigh each word very carefully. You could, though, have a very soothing sound or tone to your actual voice, because Taurus rules the body part which is the throat region of the body. So you could have a really good singing voice. You could have a very soothing sort of tone to your voice if you have Mercury in Taurus in your personal birth chart. So yeah, that's basically Taurus. And as the fixed Earth sign, Taurus is kind of this sort of ethos where they are kind of like, as a real world example, it's kind of like Taurus is a green field that has trees in it, but is otherwise, pretty like untouched by human activity. It's like natural green spaces and fields with trees, flowers, all of that. That's untouched by human activity, largely for the most part. And soft soil that's firm yet soft and yielding at the same time. That would be a real world example of like the Taurus type of energy. They are very fixed as an earth sign, so they would be like a green landscape that's unaltered by human activity. So there's no houses, it's just like a park, a green space, a green field. Not even with any benches in necessarily, just a completely empty green field. That sort of thing, with obviously trees and whatever else is in nature in that green space. But that would be a real world example of like Taurus vibes. So yeah, that's it for this video. I think I got out what I wanted to say about describing Taurus. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one, hopefully. Thank you.